I'm going to turn this down. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is United vs. Everybody. I am your host, Sean. Thank you guys for stopping by. Tonight, we are jumping right into our match preview of Manchester United's Europa League clash against FC Porto tomorrow. We're back to Thursday night football already. I know the new format, the busy fixtures, it's literally every week we've got like 2 matches right now, and then we've got international break coming up. So we will get a break from that, but they're coming thick and fast right now. So we are getting stuck in. It seems like I'm doing a video almost every day now. It's been an insane start to the season. Danny, how are you doing, pal? Hope your week is going well. Manchester United's Europa League campaign did not start out according to plan. We all thought we were going to go in there and get a result at home against FC Twente. That didn't happen. We struggled against a very physical, very energetic, very intense FC Twente side. We ended that 90 minutes with a lackluster 1-1 draw at home. And honestly, I think FC Twente would probably be gutted to have not gotten a result there. It's just, the way we played, they probably deserve more. And then especially if they look back at how we played against Spurs, they were like, wait a second, we probably really should have gotten something. But the less said about the Spurs game, the better. I think we're all trying to move on at that point and just pretend it didn't happen, kind of like that 4th Indiana Jones movie. We're going to preview tomorrow's match, obviously. But first, I just want to give a big up to the women's team. They did beat Liverpool 2-0 in the first game of the Women's League Cup today. So the goals from Mallard and Williams, I believe. So big up the women. They are keeping it together. They're holding down the fort. And so big up them. Danny says, good, on the way up to Maine. Ooh, nice. I have not been to Maine. I've been to Falmouth in Martha's Vineyard, but I have not been up to Maine. A couple of lake salmon and trout. Good deal, man. Sounds like a good trip. So Thursday's trip to face Porto is a big match for Tenhag. I don't think it's a stretch to suggest that this could be the first of 2 games that could very well decide his fate as we head into this international break. I don't want to focus on that part of it today, though. I just want to preview the match and keep things in context, put a little bow around that, put a bow around the match preview. I do want to get your thoughts as we prepare for our second Europa League match of the season. So like that video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let's get stuck in. First things first, we want to see what Ten Hag has had to say ahead of the match regarding team news and whatnot. Mason Mount did not train with the team this morning after he suffered a cut on his head against Spurs that required stitches, so he did actually not travel either. Manu and Maguire trained and traveled, so Manu's issues weren't that issue. I know he went off against Spurs. I think people were fearing a hamstring. It sounds like he's fine, so they both are in contention to feature tomorrow. Dan Gore was a surprising inclusion after coming back from an injury. Remember last summer, not this past summer, over a year ago, he got injured. I think it was preseason, I want to say. And then Toby Collier made the trip as well with the rest of the squad. Ten Hag was asked about Luke Shaw. It sounds like Luke Shaw has suffered another injury setback, and he's likely to remain sidelined for another 6 to 8 weeks, I think was the report. I mean, my thoughts on Luke Shaw are pretty much academic. You guys have seen how many videos I've done on left backs. I've done that make or break video on Luke Shaw. Like, this is a make or break season for him. So you guys know my feelings on Luke. It's nothing personal. I don't blame players for getting injured. You can't really do that. Like Phil Jones said in his interview the other week, it's not like he wakes up and says, I fancy getting injured today. It's just, it is what it is. You can't help it sometimes. But that being said, I am kind of just done with Luke Shaw. As far as I'm concerned, he doesn't exist as part of the squad because the guy's never fit. I'm sure he's a very lovely guy, but he's not part of the squad. Sorry, pal. Ten Hag did say that as far as left backs go, both Shaw and Malacia are improving, but he probably wouldn't expect to see them till after the break at the soonest. But he said he can't say with any certainty when they will be back. But he did say Tyrell Malacia's next step is full team training. So he's been training a little bit. He hasn't taken part in full team training, though. So we will see. I worry about Malacia. He looks like he's in high spirits. He looks like he's in good shape. But at the same time, for an injury to take that much time out of your career, that's going to be a very long road back. And if it's an injury that serious, I worry about any sort of long-term negative prognosis as far as that is concerned. So we will see. I had never really been that convinced about Malacia. I don't really see what Tenhag saw in him. I think maybe Tenhag's talent ID needs to level up a little bit and realize he's not at Ajax anymore. We can target a higher caliber of player at Manchester United, but we'll see. But as far as I'm concerned, we have no left backs. And honestly, it's quite frank. It's nearly a sackable offense that we didn't buy one in the summer. So let me know your thoughts on the fitness of those guys. The presser wasn't really anything more than a couple generic responses to a couple generic questions, if I'm honest. Things like using anger as motivation, creating chances but not scoring, et cetera, et cetera. Presser almost didn't even happen after there was like a 3-hour delay to United's flight because of fog, apparently. So they were late. Ten Hag was late. I'm sure after all that, Ten Hag just wanted to get to Porto or get to Portugal and just chill and not do a presser. But he came. I think Dallo was supposed to join him for the presser, but he actually wasn't present for it. So it is what it is. There's a couple questions. I'll recap a little bit for you. The first question was asked, and I laughed a little bit when it was asked because the journalist started the question, with words like considering like how you've spent, and then he stopped himself and said, "Oh, how the club has spent." And it's been one of my biggest like bugaboos with Ten Hag outers, with journalists, with the media, because it's just lazy, agenda-driven commentary to sit here and talk about how much a manager has spent. Managers don't spend the money. They don't decide the player fees. They don't decide the wages. They don't decide those things. It's about time people started realizing that managers don't decide those things. This isn't a video game. Ten Hag's not sitting in there with a little negotiation at a fancy restaurant like it's FC 24 and he's talking about fees and whatnot. It is what it is. He did take responsibility for results, though, saying that it starts with him as far as responsibility goes, but everybody needs to take responsibility for that Spurs match. Not just big players like Bruno and Rashford and Licha. He was asked, is it time for these leaders, these big players to step up on the pitch? And he said, everybody has to. It starts with me. So I'm good he said that. I mean, it's one of the few times I've seen him own up to something. He did say that he and the players are mad at themselves, but they will use it as motivation to move forward, to bounce back. He did remind us too, as well, again, kind of like reiterating how he has been supported by Ineos. He was asked if, what the conversations have been like with Ashworth and whatnot, and is he worried about his job? He said, I'm not worried. He said, it was me who chose the new coaching staff. I mean, to me, that shows that Ineos has backed him. Like, when he's able to choose his coaching staff, when they're backing him with more players, when they've signed him to a contract extension, to me, that says he's not necessarily going anywhere anytime soon. But at the same time, like I said the other day, it's a very steep climb to get out of this hole that he's in right now in terms of these last few results. So he's really going to have to pull something out going into this international break. I don't think any more bad results and bad performances are going to cut it. So we'll see what happens. Let's move on to Porto. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, if you haven't yet. I'm going to grab some water. So Porto are not the same Porto that we saw last season. They went through a lot of big changes in the summer. Andre Villas-Boas, remember that guy? He was chosen as the club's new president, and when he was appointed, he immediately started to stamp his authority. He dismissed long-serving manager Sergio Conceição, who had been at the club for 7 years, and he replaced him with Vitor Bruno, who was actually Conceição's assistant for 13 years prior to that. Oddly enough, Vitor Bruno actually told his mentor, Conceição, that he wanted to go out on his own last summer, and he actually looked set to take a job managing in Qatar before Villas-Boas made those changes and appointed Vitor Bruno to the managerial role. Right now, Porto are flying in their league. They're currently in second place behind Sporting. They've got 6 wins. They've got 1 loss so far this season in the league. They're scoring loads of goals. They're keeping a lot of clean sheets. They've only conceded 3 goals in the league so far. But looking at what they're doing in Europe, which is where we need to look, because what they're doing in the Portuguese league is one thing, but what they're doing in Europe, which is where we saw a lot of them last year, they're not doing so hot. So they didn't look good against Bodo Glimt. They lost 3-2 to open that Europa League campaign, and they looked just off the pace. Could have had something to do with the fact that Vitor Bruno didn't start a couple of the key players. Galeno did not start in the wing. Alan Varela did not start in midfield. Sounds like maybe he thought it was going to be an easy match and they could be rested. Maybe there's bad blood there as far as Galeno is concerned, since he was actually set to go to the Saudi League this summer, but that move ended up falling apart. So maybe, I don't know what's going on there. What I've seen from some Portuguese fans online, though, is that they think that Vitor Bruno was a bit overconfident after all these wins in the league to start the season, and he thought that he could rest some of those big players. So you guys let me know what you think. Whatever he did, it backfired because Bodo Glimt walked right through Porto's midfield like it was, like it was our midfield, basically. That's how they walked right through it. You'd think that watching Porto struggle would fill us with confidence as United fans, but that maybe we could go and get a result. But Bodo Glimt played with a lot of energy, a lot of fight, a lot of determination, just nonstop for the full 90. Things that we just don't do at United. We don't have those things at United. And Porto just didn't have those things either, and that's what cost them, even against 10 men. So Bodo Glimt went down a man, and they still managed to keep that up. So you have to think, though, that Porto won't make that same mistake twice. They're going to be wanting a bounce back. They need to show something to their fans. They're going to need to impress their new club, the Andre Villas-Boas, and everything. A lot of big changes. We got to justify those changes. We can't let that result happen again. So I don't think we're going to see any of their big players rested tomorrow. So they typically sit in a 4-2-3-1, kind of like we do, right? Amora Dion and Galeno are kind of their key danger men in the attack. They both get forward. They both have a combined 9 goals already. I think Amora Dion has 5 goals. Galeno has 4. And their whole front four, in fact, can be a bit of a problem in general because they do have a lot of freedom to kind of be creative. They have freedom to interchange and shift positions with each other throughout the match. It makes them very difficult to mark because they're constantly kind of moving around. Something that we're going to have to keep an eye out on, especially of our midfield. We need to be a little bit more disciplined there. We need to stop rushing forward to try to do that. Just be patient a little bit. Vitor Bruno also likes to get numbers forward, which will cause us problems if we don't make ourselves a little bit more compact in defense. Been a little too easy to play through. We've been a little switched off. Defenders are getting caught high up the pitch too often. We need to take a page out of Ruud's playbook from when it's time at PSV and make ourselves a little harder to break down. Get teams to kind of struggle to get these shots off from inside the box. If we continue just to jog around the pitch, if we continue to stay switched off like we have in the last few matches, though, those numbers that Porto throw forward are going to overwhelm us, and they're going to cause us a problem. Alan Varela, we want to just try to keep the ball away from him as much as possible because he is a solid force of nature in their midfield. Very good at patrolling that area of the pitch, make sure nothing gets through. Watching him in Champions League last year, I love this guy. I loved him when he was at Boca. He did very well at Porto last season. He is such a good defensive midfielder. Whoever gets him after he's at Porto is getting a beast of a midfielder. As far as United go, so I think the back five pretty much is established. We know what that's going to be, right? Onana, Mazraoui, De Ligt, Licha, Dalot. The midfield is a bit tricky for this one in terms of picking a starting 11, since I feel like we could be pushing it with Eriksen when it comes to all these consecutive matches. Eriksen's kind of become the new McTominay, where he's had a couple good matches, and now tenhag seems to be using him as like a get out of jail, like a Hail Mary kind of a situation, which is not great. I mean, it's fine if he's performing, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, it shows just a little bit of panic stations. Danny says, Varela, the CDM we should have signed. We always seem to be just a year behind when it comes to some of these. It's like we wait a little too long, and it's hard when there's so many changes in the summer. But I do think Ugarte will be fine. He's still getting fit. He's still getting used to everything. It is what it is. So we need to give Ugarte a little bit of time. But I do like Varela a lot. I could have tossed a coin and picked between both of those in the summer, and I wouldn't have been disappointed either way, to be honest with you. I love both those guys. Again, Eriksen, I don't want to risk him necessarily, but if he's playing well and if he can play, I mean, whatever. I really don't like Eriksen in the double pivot. We've seen that he started there. He gets forward a lot. He's energetic. He's getting involved high up the pitch. It leaves us exposed. It's like we're down a man when we have to play Eriksen in a double pivot. I think it might be better if we're going to play Bruno, which Ten Hag probably will, maybe switch those two and play Bruno in the pivot and play Eriksen in the 10 and maybe a little bit. And maybe I'd probably start Ugarte. You could probably start Casemiro, but again, I think Casemiro is just not as effective in that pivot anymore as he used to be. An argument can be made again for starting Bruno if he finds his form and you want him on the pitch to make something happen, but we'll see. That midfield, like I said, the midfield is tricky. You guys let me know who will be in your midfield tomorrow. I want Ahmad to start no matter what, because I think that he's looked good. We need to get him more touches on the ball. Rashford has actually been very, very good when you deep it and look at his numbers. So again, I think Rashford does get the start. And I want Højlund to start. I wanted Højlund to start the other day against Spurs. I think he's one of our best finishers. Ten Hag even said it, one of our highest scorers. He's clinical. I think if Højlund would have had some of these chances, a fit Højlund would have had some of these chances that Xerxes been missing lately. We could have seen some different results, but we'll never know, obviously. I'm not trying to be harsh on Xerxes. I'm just saying they're very different. I think Xerxes is very fine coming on later. You can bring him on in the 9 to sub off Højlund. You can even bring him on in the 10 if you want, but I think that Højlund deserves a start on this one. So what do we need to do to get a result tomorrow against Porto? Well, plan A is going to be stop playing like shit and actually look like we give a damn on the pitch. That's plan A. It's sad that I have to say that to professional footballers, but that's where we are right now. Ten Hag needs to get us moving the ball quicker. We were way too slow, way too lethargic, one too many touches, sloppy in the pass against Spurs. But again, we've seen this from these players over the years. Whenever we play a high pressing side, a side that doesn't give us time and space, we shit ourselves. We just don't know what to do. And it's panic stations time and time again. Any team with a half decent press kills us. We need to play over around the press, through the press. We need to beat that press, more importantly, which means you have to move the ball, especially if they're going to push numbers forward like they do. This doesn't mean you just counterattack all day. It doesn't mean you just hook it long all the time, but it does mean we need to move the ball quicker. Onana needs to move the ball quicker. He's taken too many touches to get that ball away and start the attack. I need the fullbacks to chill out, stay back a little bit. We saw against, I think it was Liverpool, we're trying to build out from the back, and Casemiro would drop deep to get the ball off of Onana, and both fullbacks were literally already in the opposition half. I don't know what the point of that was. I really don't. We need to get the fullbacks to chill out a little bit. Don't rush so high to get up the pitch. This gives us options when we're building out, makes us more press resistant because we get some more options. It also makes us harder to play through when we're defending or if we lose the ball because our fullbacks are back a little further. We saw Dalot struggle a lot against Spurs to get back. And I'm still mad at him for jogging back on that first goal when Brennan Johnson just had nothing but time and space. So we can't do that again. We need to just be mindful of getting forward, but just be discerning when and how to do that. You hurt aggressive sides by moving the ball quickly and being good in those transitions. You need to be pinpoint in those transitions. Be smart with your passes. Don't just hoof it. And again, this is what Ten Hag wants us to do. He wants us to be a very good transition team. We're just not quite there yet. We're a good counterattacking team. We're not a good transition team. And that's what we need to do tomorrow. This is how Bodo Glimt beat Porto. They very high, very, very high energy, very pressing, and very quick in a transition. We absolutely have to finish our chances. We cannot afford to keep missing these chances. It's going to kill us this season, and it's going to cost Ten Hag his job if we don't start scoring goals. He said this again in the press conference. He said it himself. We need to start scoring. We need to be killers in the box. His system is getting us into good positions to create those chances. And he said our XG is among the best in the league, but we're just not finding the back of the net enough with these opportunities. And it's costing us points. Ten Hag has a role to play. He's got to do better with his team selection and his substitutions. I think that his substitutions in recent weeks have killed us. They've killed any momentum we had in these matches, taking off attackers when we need to score goals. It's just not smart. I think that it weakens us in these matches, and I think you guys have said the same. So I'd like to see him try to impact the match in a more positive and a more just not ruthless, but just like proactive kind of way. I like to see us get back into this pressing shape. Our system, we have it, but it's like it changes sometimes. It's almost a bit reactionary. in preseason and early in the season, we had a really good pressing shape. Maybe Mount is more important to us than we wanted to realize. I don't know, but we stopped pressing the way we were pressing, and now we're just kind of sitting in blocks. We need to start forcing the opposition to go where we wanted to, like we saw in preseason. Press, force it wide, press the zone instead of just pressing the man. And I think that we can get some better results. We got to watch the channels. We're doing it all in preseason. We just have not been doing it this season. I don't know what's going on. Let me know your thoughts, though. Let me know your thoughts on starting 11. Who do you want to see? Who you don't want to see? Do you see us getting a result tomorrow? What are your score predictions? Let me know, because I want to know. I think it might be 1-1 tomorrow. I can't get over the fact that we just are not scoring enough goals right now. And so I can't see us getting any more than a single goal. But who knows? We could have another Southampton moment where maybe that's what we need. I don't know. We just got to put away those chances. I need Rashford to take some shots, because he just needs to start scoring some goals. Anybody watch any Champions League matches this week? I watched Lille versus Real Madrid earlier. Lille's winger, Zagrova. Remember that guy we were linked with this summer, Edin Zagrova? He looked very, very good today. I've seen all over Twitter too. He was causing Mendy and Rudiger all sorts of problems. So he looks very, very good. And what about Chevalier? If you guys, I don't know if you guys watch a lot of French League. I don't watch a lot of French League. I just watch them in the Champions League. But guys, what about Chevalier, their keeper, Lucas Chevalier? Very young keeper, very good shot stopper. He's a keeper I've actually signed a few times in my career mode on FIFA. I did a scouting report, I believe, on him last season as well. He's so good, though. He's such a good young keeper. Composed View, welcome back to the channel, my guy. Says, I watched Aston Villa versus Brighton. Says, we are not beating Villa next weekend. I didn't even look at the results. I know the Spanish teams did not do well today because Atletico got absolutely hammered by Benfica. Dang, Villa beat Bayern Munich, huh? Wow. That's insane. Wow. Why do they got, dang, that's weird. All right. Well, I said, we're not going to beat Villa. And this is what I've tried to tell people for the last couple of weeks. It's more about manager than it is about club. You can look at Villa and say, like, oh, they were in the championship a couple of years. Like, they were, like, it's not the same Villa as it was under Dean Smith. This is an Unai Emery Villa, and it's a different animal now. And so we are probably not going to beat them, like Composed View says. Obviously, I'll come back and do a preview of that one this weekend ahead of that matchup, because we got to come back from Porto and turn right around and travel to play Villa again ahead of this international break. This is why there's like so many things that aren't lining up for us. It's so many away matches, tough matches after some bad results, and then we go to international break. It's probably the worst time to be Erik tenhag right now, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, Chevalier looked really good. Zagrova looked really, really good. Really impressed with Lille today. I'm not saying Lille are better than Madrid. They just were better than Madrid on the day. Madrid just couldn't get it going. So it is what it is. I think Madrid really messed up not starting Mbappe today. Maybe they thought they didn't have to, but if he's on the bench, just start him and get it done. By the time they brought him on, it was a little too late. So, but yeah, Chevalier, very, very good. I think I would like us to do a Liverpool, sign Chevalier, loan him back to Lille for whoever, and then bring him back in a couple of years, maybe when the next manager decides he doesn't like Andre Onana. So it is what it is. But get your score predictions for the match tomorrow. Who will be in your starting 11? Who are you benching? Do you already have one eye on Villa? You shouldn't, because that's not the way to do things, because we just want to take each match as it is. But are you surprised to see Dan Gore travel with the squad? That was a surprising inclusion for me. I know he recently got back from his injury, but it's interesting. Mount obviously did not travel. Manu and Maguire are fine. They've traveled, so we'll see. I give you my starting 11. I'm still a little iffy on the midfield. I could go either way right now with a lot of that midfield, but I probably would want to rest Eriksen. Ten Hag's probably going to start Bruno. Again, I go back and forth with Bruno because, like I said in my last video, it's so hard, right? Because Bruno's struggling. He's not been doing it, but at the same time, he is one of those players who can have a bad 89 minutes, but then in the one last minute of the game, he can pull something out of his hat and win it. You never know, and it's hard. But at the same time, you also want to reward players who are performing, and so it's difficult. And that's why I don't envy managers. But Let me know your score prediction. Let me know your starting 11s. As I said, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel on your way out the door. We will be back, probably not tomorrow, probably Friday, with my match review of tomorrow's matchup, because it is a little later on tomorrow and I've got stuff going on in the afternoon. But we'll go from there. Thank you guys for stopping by today. I always appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Danny, have a safe trip, man. Enjoy the seafood. And Composed View, good to see you again. Thanks for stopping by, my friend. And I will see you guys on the next one. Later. Oh, hold on. I wanted one more comment. Composed View says, we don't have such players in the team that can pull off something out of nowhere like Bruno, hence his constant presence in the team regardless of. Yeah, no, I agree. We don't have a whole lot of players who can do that. And I'm not saying that Bruno is undroppable, but it's always hard to drop him, right? So anyway, wanted to make sure I got that comment in, but thanks, man. Thank you for the support. I will see you guys on the next one. Later.